All righty. Let's see if I remember how to do this. Disappointing end to the West Coast road trip. Although I say that, what's the opposite of saying something with your full chest or your full whatever? Because I don't know, reasonably speaking, how any Knick fan could really be all that disappointed with tonight, which was a 113-100 loss to the defending world champions and the soon to be three times in 4 years MVP, Nikola Jokic. The Knicks, or what the Knicks have right now with their guys still injured, gave it, I think, everything you could reasonably expect them to have given it. I'll talk about some of the specific reasons why I think why they struggled. They struggled because they're playing the best team in the NBA and because they're playing the best player on the planet, who I'll just say at the top before I get into any Knicks stuff. I've been watching basketball for 30 years. I don't think that there's five guys that I've watched in that time that have complete and total command of the offensive end of the basketball court, more than Nikola Jokic. He is, if a shot he takes misses, you're like, what? Was there a glitch in the matrix? Did my TV screen freeze or something? If he doesn't find an open man with a pass, you're almost amazed. He's just operating completely and totally at full capacity. I have no idea how long he wants to play the sport for, but he could rise up as far high in the ranks as he wants to. And they've surrounded him with the perfect team. And if we're looking really for a difference in the game, I thought, whereas I think the Knicks coming into this game, given how they were shorthanded, needed someone. They certainly needed Jalen Brunson to have one of his MVP level games, which Jalen Brunson was fine tonight. He was good, but he didn't give you the superhuman level stuff that we have seen from him repeatedly over the last, really all season, but especially over the last couple months. And you got a nice Alec Burks game, which feels weird to say, but you did. You got a nice Alec Burks game, at least from a shot making perspective. But they didn't have a great night from three. I know their percentage was fine. They didn't put up nearly enough for it to really. To win this game tonight, they needed something like a 17 of 38 performance or something from downtown, or someone else to get like really, really hot besides Brunson, and Brunson to have a really, really good game. And they frankly probably needed the Nuggets to not be the fully operational Death Star. And then you look up and again, this is not because of any defense the Knicks didn't play. They held the Nuggets to 113 points. I'm sure their offensive rating was decent because this game was played at a snail's pace. But the Nuggets shot 54% from the field. I know they struggled from deep, but they only took 23s, and that's because they didn't need to take any more than 23s because the Knicks have this impossible choice to make at the moment with OG Anunoby hurt, which is, are we going to play a lineup with some size that is going to, give us a little bit more of a chance on the defensive glass? Certainly that hurt them, and give us maybe a little bit more of a presence defensively, certainly on the interior, or are we going to give ourselves some spacing? And I think correctly, Thibodeau chose to do the spacing lineup, figuring that, hey, I'm going up against, it's funny. Deuce McBride comes from facing one point guard that led his team to an NBA title in the last 2 years, to facing another point guard that led his team to an NBA title in the last 2 years. No rest for the weary here. And the dude played how many? I think 44 minutes. Yeah. So tells you all you need to know about Deuce McBride. But I think that was the right call. But when you make that call, you're going to have to make concessions. And I already mentioned the defensive rebounding. The final total was 42 to 31 in favor of Denver. But really, that discrepancy was almost totally in the first half. I thought after halftime, the Knicks they cleaned up the boards well enough, but I did not think that they were great, even considering the fact that they were undersized. I think they that was the one area where you could critique them in the first half. And again, I'm not going to go crazy about it. And then on the other end of the court, I mean, you're playing. I tweeted it out before the game. The total height discrepancy, and this is with Isaiah Hartenstein out measuring Nikola Jokic by 1 inch, but the total height discrepancy between these two teams amounted to 14 total inches, because the Knicks are playing 4 guys 6'4" and shorter, and the Nuggets are playing, freaking Michael Porter Jr. and Aaron Gordon, and even Murray. Like, Murray's only 6'4", and he plays bigger than that. You saw that early on in the game when Deuce was doing everything he could. Murray was just having his way. But yeah, that was the difference in the game. Michael Porter Jr., Fred just tweeted it out, perfect from inside the arc, 10 of 10 on twos, finished with 31 points. I mean, the guy's a max player, so it's not like, he comes out of nowhere and does this. Like, there's a reason they gave him a max contract. But if you have Jokic operating at this level, and he almost always does, and you have Murray operating at the level he was operating at, and he does an awful lot when he's healthy, when you get like Porter doing what he did tonight, it's kind of like game over. You really don't have much to hang your hat on. Other than you got to beat him during the bench minutes. And again, give credit to the Knicks. They did that. And, look, we'll get into the Pistons part of the program, but all things considered, I think Alec Burks is at least, he's making an honest go of trying to retain a rotation spot for the foreseeable future. I don't know how successful he's going to be. I'll say this: he may have pulled ahead of the guy he got traded here with in Bojan Bogdanovic. Of the two, I mean, I know it was clearly Bogdanovic, not that he was playing all that great early on. I don't know. I wonder if Burks pulled a little bit ahead in that. I don't even want to call it a race. That would be disingenuous to that would be mean to races. But whatever. Enough about them. But yeah, the Knicks did everything I thought they reasonably could have. And obviously some shout outs are in order. I already mentioned Deuce playing that level of defense over 44 minutes. And this goes for the whole team. I thought, yeah, I mean, maybe their defensive intensity slipped by a hair early in the third quarter when the Nuggets kind of got out and scored some points. But like, four game West Coast road trip in Mile High, playing a team. And I think this is the other thing. And I look, it doesn't matter how this team loses a game. If they lose a game, there's going to be people who are going to be mad and yell and scream. Although I don't anticipate getting a whole lot of that tonight, but just in anticipation of anybody watching this and is like upset about anything, it's not just the fourth game in a 4-game West Coast trip and the location of the game. And this is obviously why Denver is defending world champs. It's why they have the second best home record in the league this year. It's why they've been the best team in basketball since the All-Star break, when they actually really started to kind of give a fuck. It's why I picked them to repeat as champs, and I think they will. Every possession, like literally every possession, with Jokic on the floor, and to a lesser extent with Murray on the floor, because Murray's pretty good in his own right. But like, especially with Jokic on the floor, you have to be so locked in, because any mistake is death with this guy, because he will find it and he will hit it and he will exploit it. And sometimes that's and when you don't make any mistakes, you just say, okay, I'm going to take the ball myself. And what did he score? Yeah, 30 points on. Actually, I mean, look, and this is going to transition to the first guy that I want to praise tonight for the Knicks, and really, I think the only guy that I want to single out, because like the entire team, I thought played very hard for the most part, played well, give or take a Bogdanovic. I thought Precious redeemed himself in the second half. I did not love the one rebound period in the first half and 14 minutes from Precious. But like, I'm not gonna kill Josh Hart for finally looking human after he has kind of carried this team for the better part of a month. Is Hartenstein. So let's get to Hartenstein. Isaiah Hartenstein, and we're gonna end the monologue with this, and then we'll get to the super chats. Isaiah Hartenstein, think about this. It was like not that long ago, a little more than a year, because the tide turned in January. I will never forget the game that the tide turned. It was the Cavs game where he made the game-saving defensive play on Donovan Mitchell at the end of that game, and then it was almost like a switch flipped. And from that moment on, we were all watching him and starting to ask ourselves, like, wait a minute, is Isaiah Hartenstein, forget about now all of a sudden being good? Is he like maybe like in the conversation for the best center on the team, at least when it comes to fit with the roster and fit with the starting five? And the reason why that was such a crazy conversation to have last year was because, don't forget, he was the punching bag. He got the Memorial Elfrid Payton, we got to be mad at somebody all the time, so we're going to be mad at this guy award. And everybody killed him. People killed that signing. And frankly, it's because he was not good. What we didn't know is how much he was hurting. And the fact that the guy went on to play 82 games last year tells you everything you need to know. Well, fast forward to this season, and he's never been bad. He was not himself for some games, I would say, in after the Achilles injury, late January, through like the middle of February. But there have been times through this season where you're like, oh my goodness. And in terms of his defensive aptitude, and then obviously his fit with the starting five, specifically on the offensive end, he was there for all of January when the team went on that amazing run. And this last, really this West Coast road trip, I thought it came to a head in Golden State, which I thought, I did a whole newsletter on his passing. And again, I don't really care how many, or just his offense in general. Like, I think he had only like 3 or 4 assists or whatever it was in the Golden State game. It didn't matter. Like what they're able to do with this guy on offense. And then to come into tonight where he's facing a team that he had a cup of coffee with. And again, shout out to Fred. Fred tweeted it out earlier about how Hartenstein still talks about how much he learned from Jokic in the short time he was in Denver. For Hartenstein to have his career high against Jokic, who is a guy many people have compared him to, not obviously as like a ceiling outcome, because Jokic is one of one, but as a guy like, hey, if this guy got some real time, he could be Jokic light. Well, he's getting real time, and boy, oh boy, does he look like Jokic. Very light, but like light, where it's a reasonable facsimile in terms of what he's able to do with the ball. Obviously, from a perspective of like shot making and like bullying guys in the post and just being able to get a great shot whenever he wants. That's not Hartenstein, as evinced by the fact that this is the first time in his career he's ever scored 20 points. But he has some real serious passing chops from the center position. And I think more than that, if you pair him with another player, and we saw it tonight early and often with Jalen Brunson, who he can develop some real chemistry with, and who is equally unselfish, and who moves with the ball and who moves without the ball, that's a foundation of an offense. If you have proper spacing. And obviously the vast majority of the reason that could be the foundation of a good offense is because of Brunson and his otherworldly gifts. But you need someone else to kind of make it hum. And traditionally, your 2-man combinations are with like your 2 most talented players. Like, we saw with like Steph and KD in Golden State, and what we see with Jokic and Murray in Denver. This is a little bit different. This is really 2 guys who are like the rising tide lifts all ships. But even so, Hartenstein needs to be able to do a lot of stuff to be able to make it work. And boy, is he making some shots. Is he making some passes? Is he making some reads? It's so beautiful to watch. And again, I was just really, it's the happiest, or least upset, I guess, I've been after any loss this year, mostly because of him. I was really happy that he could have a career high, going back to Denver, facing off against Jokic. And like, I thought defensively, he did what anybody could do against Jokic. Like, they played Jokic for the most part straight up all night long. And Hartenstein, that's not easy. That's not easy. and Hartenstein did what he could. So great job by him. Really nice effort by the Knicks. I mean, again, this was a 2-point game in the fourth quarter. What more can you ask for? And most importantly, a fantastic West Coast trip. I forget who brought it up on the broadcast towards the end, but either Monica or Kenny were like, I think you could still argue that this was a successful trip. Yeah, it was a successful trip. You think? I mean, I looking before the trip started. You're like, man, 1-3 would hurt, but I think we could survive it. Boy, what I wouldn't give to steal a second game, and that was even assuming they would get the Portland game, which you never want to assume anything when the team is banged up. That they went 3-1 on this trip. I know Orlando won tonight. I watched a decent portion of that game. Orlando's tough. They're not going away. And they have obviously an easy schedule down the stretch. I thought that was going to be a blowout early, not in favor of Orlando, but in favor of New Orleans. And the fact that the Magic hung tough in a game that, I don't know if anybody else watched the beginning of that game, that it looked like it was maybe going to get away from Orlando. And they absolutely dominated from the 2/3 mark of the second quarter until the end of the game. So they now have a half game lead on us. Milwaukee had a little bit of trouble with Brooklyn tonight, but I don't think we're catching Milwaukee. Between the tiebreaker and the lead that they have, I think that's a bridge too far. But sites, yes.
Are you going through the standings right now, John?
No, I was just thinking about the Orlando game.
No. Would you like to go through the standings right now, John? Since I have it ready for you.
Why not? Let's do it. So yes, we're looking at here the Bucks with now a 3.5 game lead. With now the Knicks have how many games they have left to play? 13 games, right?
Today was game 69.
Yeah, and Milwaukee has a dozen games left. I'm calling it. We're not catching the Bucks. Cleveland is the one, and it I think is in part because of how Cleveland has looked and how they have played. The Miami Heat tried every which way. Boy, did they try every which way to blow that game last night against Cleveland. And the Heat just they found a way because Cleveland just doesn't have the talent right now. So that is a 2-game lead. The Knicks have the tiebreaker. I was thinking about it today. I was kind of figuring that the Knicks would lose this game. I think it might take. It's going to take at least 8 and 5, I think, to catch the Cavs. It might take 9 and 4, but I think 8 and 5 might make it a doable thing. As I said, Orlando half game up on us, and then in the back end, Pacers 2.5 back. They have the tiebreaker, but they are running out of games. They only have 12 games left, so one fewer than the Knicks. And then the Heat and the Sixers are tied. They are 17 games back, respectively, of the Knicks. And by the way, the Knicks own the
17 games back of the Celtics. Just 3 games back of the Knicks.
Yes. Is anybody 17 games back? Are the Pistons 17 games back of the Knicks? Probably not. But 17 games back of the Celtics. But more importantly than that,
the Pistons are 30 games back of the Knicks.
Are they really? Wow.
Yes.
So that's not great. Shout out to the Wizards, by the way, who beat the Kings tonight. Imagine being a Kings fan right now.
Is that real? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Sacramento.
Yeah. And they were down big early, and then they came back and they went on a huge run at the end of the first half, and they still managed to lose the game. But Miami and Philly, 3 games back of the Knicks, but the Knicks have the tiebreaker over both of those teams, which is obviously vital. So we don't have to do this for too long. I'll do this and then we'll go to the super chats. Let's say Miami, they have 13 games left to play. I mean, I don't know what's a reasonable, what's the absolute best they could do? 9-7, or sorry, 9-4, 9-4,
something like that.
Let's say 9-4. What I don't think they're going to go 9-4, but let's just say for argument's sake they went 9-4. So that would put them at 47 wins, which means that the Knicks could go 6-7 from here on in and still finish with ahead of the Heat because they have the tiebreaker. So I'm not really worried as much about the Heat or the Sixers. The Pacers, again, because they have the tiebreaker, it's a little bit dicier. Don't love how they've been playing, but You got some more work to do, and it starts on Saturday. With the 4 straight games that the Knicks will be favored to win, would think the Knicks would be close to double-digit favorites in each of the next 4 games, barring any other injuries. So, do you need all 4? Is it enough to get 3 out of 4? Can you afford to slip up? I don't know. We'll see.
I'll pull the Macri. I would sign right now for 3-1. Maybe
Really?
you slip up because we're hosting an event on Saturday. Maybe you slip up because they're playing Wemby next Friday.
Yeah.
I'd sign up right now for 3-1, but they should go 4. They should go 4-0. They should beat these 4 teams. And then, the better question is, when does OG Anunoby come back?
Yeah, no, I think the OG Anunoby part of it and the Mitch part of it.
Do you look at these next 4 games as winnable without both, and say if you can push it to the Easter Sunday game against the Thunder, do you, or do you say, you know what, come back now if you can play?
Look, I think this organization has kind of shown us already when guys are healthy enough to play, they're gonna send them out there. I think the Julius thing is unique because it's a sort of situation where the longer this thing has to heal, the less likely a re-injury is, and also the longer you sit him out, the more the less you're risking that the re-injury will occur in this game because he's not playing in this game. He's playing in the next game or the next game or the next game. So the Julius thing put aside, I think the Mitch and the OG things are different. I fully expect Mitch to play, maybe not Saturday, but maybe the game after that. That's my kind of hope / guess. And then OG, OG, we'll see. Would I sign for 3-1? Probably. Better safe than sorry. And then you got to bank some wins you got to bank some quality wins down the stretch. And yes, I know they lost tonight to the Rockets because the Rockets apparently aren't going to lose anymore. I consider those Bulls games are going to be tests, with how that team has been playing. And I guess the last thing I'll say before we get to it is, like, you hope that if you are in a situation down to the last weekend of the season and you need to win out to whatever it is, get the 5 seed, get the 4 seed, get the 3 seed, those last 2 games, because they're both home games, one's against the Bulls, one's against the Nets, right? I think it's Nets, then Bulls. You figure if you really need those, you'll be able to get them, and that's, I think, a saving grace. And then the other, I keep fourth time I've said last thing. I'm looking at that Boston game, and here's why. But obviously, Boston's not going to have anything to play for. They could help manipulate their playoff opponent in the second round, potentially, with that third to last game of the season, because you never know. It's a situation where, like, if the Knicks win out from that point forward, they will move out of Boston's part of the bracket. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but that could be the case by that point. So would Boston be like, hey, we don't want to face the Knicks in the second round. We'd rather face the Cavs or the Magic in the second round. I don't know if that's what's going to be the case, but we'll see.
I don't know if they go that far. I think they're an organization that would play out would load manage the last. They would treat out that LA Fitness Week like an LA Fitness Week, and, like, I think if the Knicks have to win that game, they will be the team that's trying harder, that will have more available players that week.
I'm just wondering if there's
6.5 up for home court throughout the playoffs. So if there's 3 games left,
they're going to get home court before that. I'm not worried about that. I'm just wondering if, like, if we get to those last 3 games and they have a chance to get to 68 wins, will they care about that? Like, there's not a whole lot of teams, and I think that's on the right. 68. Well, no, 68.
They have to win out.
Yeah. I think, you know what? Now that I'm saying it out loud and I'm hearing myself say it, I think only them having a chance to end the season on a winning streak, like, basically from now until the end, would they play all of their guys, like, for the most part, till the end. Like, they'll give selective guys off here and there, but I'm talking about, like, is there a chance that we get to that game and the Celtics, like, sit most of their guys?
I think insert injury here for Tatum, Brown, Porzingis, like all the guys that matter if they're clinched home court throughout the last
Which
5
they will.
days.
Which
Yeah,
they will.
well, it's why I'd like the Knicks to be somewhat not clinched, but in like a favorable position, so that way that game can be looked at like the Brooklyn game.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
A lot could unfold.
Yes. So John has been trying to rush through the monologue for some reason when we have some announcements to make. First of all, speaking of the Brooklyn Nets, we play them on Saturday, and we will be having a watch party this Saturday at T Squared Social. It's going to start at noon. The game is at 1 p.m. The game is also at the Garden, so if you're at the Garden or on your way to the Garden, stop by, say hi. We'll be there. Again, a pregame watch party. Get your seat. I believe there's going to be some drink specials that find out when you get there. I have had so much water tonight, John. Saturday at T Squared Social. If you don't know where it is, it's on 42nd Street. It's walking distance from Grand Central.
Half block away.
Yes, literally walking distance. Like I'm saying that, so you know it's walking distance. So join us this Saturday for Knicks Nets as we break this KFS curse. I'm glad we're not breaking a streak. Okay, but we're going to break this curse on Saturday. And then let's also end this on a positive note, because what we do here at Knicks Film School, while it's a living, it's also a labor of love. And when we hit milestones, we celebrate them. And during the game tonight, during the watch along, we hit 15K on YouTube. So shout out to the entire KFS faithful for everything that you've done to support us over the years, for all 15,000 of you. And to John and to Jeremy and to Benji, to the casuals, Mensa, XJ, Sean. I'm gonna make sure I name everybody. Chris, DJ. If you've produced anything ever for Knicks Film School, please just take a bow, because this is a benchmark that we're proud to hit, and we're looking forward to the next 15,000 as well. So shout out to everybody that's helped us reach this milestone.
Shout out to you.
One of the people that
when we first got together, I was like, oh, I think we have a YouTube channel, and you're like, oh, do you mind if I kind of take on that project?
Mm-hmm.
What do we have, about 1,000 subscribers?
It was just above 1,000, maybe a little less, and it was like 6 videos, and I was like, there's potential here, and the rest is kind of history. So, there you go. But thank you to everybody for watching along. We literally would just be talking to each other on the phone after a basketball game if we didn't have a YouTube channel, but instead we get to talk with all of you. And thank you for the 1,000 people staying up late on for Knicks
people watching. Jesus,
between YouTube and Twitter. That is the number right now, 1,009. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Let us get to the super chats.
Giddy up. All right. Hopefully mostly positive tonight. Jesse M, what's going on, Jesse? Nuggets home games at high altitude is an unfair advantage. Yeah, absolutely. It is the best home court advantage in the NBA. I don't know. Is it the best home field court stadium advantage in sports? It's got to be up there, right? It's got to be pretty high. So yeah, tough place to play and win a game. Thanks, Jesse. From Jersey. MPJ has such a punchable face, but I'll take 3-1. He is an easy player to hate. What an interesting career. I don't want to go into a whole thing on MPJ, but it's such an interesting career. You look at that contract. I did not listen to the Bill Simmons terrible contract draft, whatever it was they did the other last week or something. But like he's a guy where I wonder how many other teams would want that. But he in that ecosystem, he's perfect. He's perfect, and he showed it today. Thanks, from Jersey. Ben, what's going on, Ben? How you doing, my friend? I'm now calling Jokic Big Bird. He's like Bird, but much bigger and frankly scarier. I was trying to I really do think the closest player comp in NBA history doesn't it have to be Bird, because he is a top 10 passer ever, regardless of position. And I think the only other guy who you could definitively put in that conversation that is not a point guard is Larry Bird. He has Bird's touch. But the difference is like he's one. I don't like how many players have been as unstoppable on the block once they get the ball at a certain distance from the hoop are just kind of automatic. It's different than Shaq. Shaq was that was raw physicality. This is touch, but it's touch with the physicality and with the size and like everything like that. His offensive game around the basket almost reminds me more of Duncan. He's got better touch than Duncan though, and that Duncan's one of the 10 greatest defenders ever, and that's obviously a differentiating point there. But yeah, man, I don't look. There's a reason I picked him to win the championship before this year. I have not backed off of that. The guy's unreal. Thanks, man. I-95 bully. What's going on, I-95? Stentorious. Stentorious. I don't know what that refers to.
Okay, so the super chat says, Stentorious, give a dissertation on Bogey's passing. This is what happens when the Discord and the Substack chat, there are separate inside jokes that don't cross over.
Am I stentorious?
No, Ben Kim Garvey is stentorious. And I believe it's because his so he changed it. So his name on Discord is the Stentorious BKG.
Got it.
And so earlier this week, I believe it was yesterday, Ben actually made like a nice chart based off of the Ringer's top 100 in players and created like a graph to show what teams are outperforming based on wins and losses, their talent. So like the Celtics have 5 guys in the top 100 and their record, they're still outperforming their talent. And like you got a team like the Heat that they have a bunch of guys in the top 150, yet their wins are lower than what they should be at this point. The Knicks, they're about where they should be, and so on and so forth. So it's a really cool graph. And it, I-95 bully made the joke that it was like, I'm here for the dissertation. And it's just been a running joke ever since that. Anytime you log into the Discord, you may get the dissertation. If you'd like to join our Discord for just $7 a month, as well as a ton of other perks, sign up for Patreon. It's the mellow tier. You get to rewatch our playback watch parties in full broadcast with the game view. If you'd like to, you get to join our Discord. You get an episode of the Knicks Film School podcast that's about the NBA, one per week. John and I are recording it tomorrow. So shameless plug for the Knicks Film School Patreon if you'd like to join.
A lot of shameless plugs today. Bogey's passing. I had exactly one moment tonight where I was genuinely frustrated, and it was the turnover that he had. Was it?
They were down 4. It was 92-88.
It was early in the. I was trying to think it was late in the third or early in the fourth. It was early in the fourth. Yeah.
They had just cut it to 2. Yep. Malone brought Jokic back in.
Yep.
And
yeah,
but MPJ hit a shot that like went off the rim and in. We're like, oh, he's gonna hit that. Yeah. And then Bogey came back down the other end and just literally threw it at Jokic. Like it wasn't like it didn't look like a pass. It looked like dodgeball.
Sorry, I wasn't even talking about that one. I was talking about the other egregious Bojan Bogdanovic turnover when he was in the corner, and I think he was trying to get it into like Burks or something, whatever it was. Look, I praised Burks a little bit earlier because on a night where they needed somebody to kind of make some shots, he scored 18 points on 11 shots. Like I get that will be kind of poo-pooed because it doesn't look good. But I am going to poo-poo it here because the two of them had 5 of the Knicks only had 9 turnovers, which is great. You can't turn the ball over against this team because it's Jokic running the freaking break and it's death. They had 5 of the Knicks, 9 turnovers, and they played a combined 35 minutes. They played 35 combined minutes out of 240 minutes. All 5 guys together played 240. They played 35, and they had more than half the turnovers. That is not okay. That's why I said at the top, like, you could argue Burks has passed Bogey in the again, I'm not calling it a race. for like to retain the rotation. So I mean, as of right now, again, it should go without saying, based on how these guys are playing right now, if this team is fully healthy, neither of these guys should step foot on the court at all for a playoff game. That's just the reality. I think there will probably wind up being 10 minutes for one of them. I think. I could be wrong. I don't know what happened to this guy, man. He's still hitting a shot every now and then, but guys, this is not the guy that I thought they were trading for. Josephan, Josevan, I don't know. Vallejo, my very first super chat. Well, welcome aboard, my friend. Knicks played hard. They did. End of a 4-game road trip against the defending champs and missing 2 starters. Can't get upset. Yeah, you're preaching to the choir. I completely agree. I really do genuinely hope that is the sentiment of anyone who is a fan of this team, because it's the only fair assessment. It's the only fair assessment of how they played tonight. And it also, inclusive of that, is recognition of how hard they have played since the guys went out, since these guys got injured. And somehow, some way, without 2 starters, and again, you could argue, I don't know if you want to argue Mitchell Robinson, is he their 4th most important player, 5th most important player, 6th most important player? He's somewhere in that conversation. And they are missing half of their top 6. And they have somehow stayed above 500, which is absolutely miraculous. And a credit to them. Key Hooper, then. I think this is the first of 2. Okay. No one should be upset at this loss. That means a lot coming from you, because I know you tend to get upset sometimes when things are not going well. 3-1 road trip. Good stuff. Our boy Hart got to shoot better, though. Hasn't made it 3 in 4 games. You know, I'm happy you said that. Because quick aside.
Read the rest of the.
Yeah, I know. Two for his last 25.
There you go.
Quick aside. I had a very rare moment. I'll read the Goo Hooper's other super chat. To be frank, to Hart, I'm sure he's running on fumes and no legs. Yes. And this even backs up what I was going to say even more. I had a rare free moment today, and I was like, let me update the stars of the game standing for the Knicks Film School newsletter, because I hadn't updated it since the All-Star break. And I obviously knew that Hart has played well and been a key contributor to the team since the break. What I did not realize, he got one of my 3 stars of the game in the first 8 games out of the break. And then there was one game he didn't. It was the first the first game against Philly when nobody played well. And then he got 2 more games in a row. So 10 out of the first 11 games after the All-Star break, he got one of my stars of the game. Now, needless to say, my awarding of stars is not quite the most scientific way to tell if a guy is playing well or not playing well. But for whatever it's worth, 8 straight games with a star is the most of any Knick this season. I went back and I checked it because I keep records of all this stuff. Brunson came close. Mitch actually came close early in the year. Mitch got a star in 7 straight and 10 of 12. So he came close. There were some guys that got like honorable mentions that if, the honorable mention was a star, but nobody has gotten more than that. And then the last time I awarded him a star was in the Portland game. Didn't get one in Sacramento, didn't get one in Golden State, and is not going to be getting one tonight. So I just wanted to say that because I think it does really put into perspective what you're saying with your second comment, which is that he has given it. I mean, he has played more NBA basketball over the last at least month, if not more than a month, than any NBA player has played over a similar stretch in, I think, like more than a decade or about a decade, which is, it's ridiculous. He is giving this team everything he has. I think this was an example of like that just the legs weren't there. You could tell he didn't want to shoot from the outside. You could tell he was a little bit gassed. It's fine. I don't know where you would rank him on the list of players on our roster who, like, man, wouldn't it be great if we could give these guys like the last weekend of the season off? The reason I'm not really worried is a couple reasons. One, you're going to have, if nothing else, Mitch, Julius, and OG, say what you want about other, issues related to them coming back from injury. They're going to be fresh, so there's that. And the other part of it is, God willing, they're going to have play-in week off. So that's 5 days. So that's five big days, I think, to get themselves rested and all of that good stuff. Like, we're not worried about Deuce. We're really, I think, DiVincenzo, you want him to get his legs under him. Hart for sure. And then and Hartenstein, they're already managing his minutes. And Brunson, and Brunson. That's really it. So we'll see where we're at when we get there. But that is all for tonight. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks to everybody who watched either on Twitter or over YouTube. Again, one final plug. If you're in the city on Saturday, come watch us kick the shit out of the Nets, which I'm calling it now. We're winning that game. I don't know how. We are winning that game. This curse ends. T-Squared Social starts at noon. There'll be all the March Madness games on, too. So if you're interested in college basketball, got that covered. And that is all I have to say. Andrew, anything else before we go?
Nope, you nailed it. And again, thank you to everybody for 15K. This is a cool thing. So thank you, everybody, for that. And we'll see you on Saturday.
Cheers.